Well, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Jim is going to join us here. And Dr. Parsons, I'm so grateful you would come and speak with us about attendance and engagement, which is, as we all know, is a very timely and important, I would say, perennial topic. With us today, by way of introduction, is Dr. Kim Parsons, Associate Professor of English here at EKU. She's been with the university since 2006 and currently teaches first-year writing courses. So with that said, take it away, Dr. Parsons.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for the introduction, and good morning to everyone here that's attending. I do appreciate you joining with me today and your interest in the subject matter. What I think, and I hate to kind of dismiss what I'm sharing, but it's really not that earth-shattering a discovery on my part, that really illustrates my effort to mimic face-to-face classwork activities and credit for attendance and participation using tools in Blackboard in response to COVID and when we moved to remote learning last year with all our first year writing courses. So what I felt was with those students that I work with, which really are the under prepared that come in with the into the R courses, I felt it was important for me to try to mimic participation engagement of face-to-face courses. So I designed the asynchronous classes with the IDC PD2 online course development model in mind, alongside the traditional Monday, Wednesday, Friday course rotation. So with today's presentation, what I focus on, the design of one weekly modules, what I'll step through within a 16-week semester. So I'll step through the assignments that I created in an effort to engage students with content and collaboration. And then I will demonstrate how I monitored attendance with Blackboard tools and gradebook. So today's presentation doesn't really focus on the efficacy of the assignments per se, because that is probably up for debate. But the methods for monitoring attendance and participation and engagement assignments is kind of just what I wanted to illustrate. So that said, given the at-risk student population in the ENGR courses and their struggles with academic dispositions that include lack of preparedness for class, when we meet for class, many times they don't have the materials that they need, and sometimes they are hesitant to participate. They're not quite as vocal, I think, as students in upper division classes. So online participation engagement assignments, I think, offer them some control and are a little less stressful for them. And it also encouraged them all to complete assignments, whereas sometimes it was hard to get them to kind of really fully engage in the classroom so they could do the assignments on their own. And that, I think, helped with participation that way. So I'm planning to take a closer look, comparing face-to-face and online courses to see if there is a significant difference in student outcomes and mastery of skills. Many here have developed best practices for student engagement. And so if anyone participating, Jim and Jacqueline, if you would like to share, I'm hoping that you will when we wrap up with some final Q&A and maybe discussion before we depart today. And again, I don't expect to spend a lot of time. We'll just see how it goes. So feel free to use the chat section if you'd like, or to ask me to slow down or return to a previous screen or anything. But just to begin, the courses included 1 to 2 participation engagement assignments with each weekly module, and that included blogs, pre-writing activities, confirmation of CEC appointments, self-assessment activities, and other low-stake assignments. So there were 0 points accredited to the work itself. It was for completion, and they were awarded, it was part of their attendance grade. So they were awarded like each week, roughly, like I said, 1 to 2 of those assignments. And then sometimes I awarded credit for Blackboard logins at the beginning of the week. So I was trying to encourage them really just to be involved in Blackboard 3 days a week, just as they would be coming to class 3 days a week. And so I could follow the traditional attendance policy for more than 5 absences for the semester. That would really indicate a problematic situation and prompt individual communications between me and the students and referrals to the SSC. So that's what I found was helpful with online. It was just my way of making that transition. I'm going to go ahead and start a screen share and step through my Blackboard site. This was from spring 2000, last spring. And so, oh, sorry, I got something dinging in the background. And I'm not sure that really the design here would be productive with students beyond the 100 course level, students that are more experienced with expectations of online classes. I'm not sure if this would really be the best practice for those types of students. So I'll just stop there and take a little bit of a breath and switch my screens. And does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'll go ahead and see if I can start this screen share. And let's see. Oops. All right, so let's see if I can get this going. Can you guys see my Blackboard site?
Sure can. Looks good.
Okay, great. All right, so we were designed with weekly modules. And so what I think I'm going to do to start off, I was going to go to the grade book, but I'm just hesitant, I think, with Chris's advice not to do that. And I have a screenshot that I'll show, and I'm sorry for bouncing around here just a tad. But let's see if I can pull up the screenshot. This is what the grade book would look like. And you can't see all the columns, but this, I'll just point out, this row was a course engagement assignment. And when I created this in the weekly module, and I'll go back to the weekly modules and show you those, I just, instead of assigning points or a grade, I just could assign a text a response for incomplete or complete. And so the students could see this when they would go to Blackboard. Anything that was considered a course engagement and participation assignment, they could see whether they were awarded complete or incomplete for any of those. This column here, you can't see the labeling, but this is the overall attendance record for the semester. So this student had 10 absences. This student had 17, 3, 8, 9 overall for the semester. So there were, students with a lot of absences. However, you can see here, the student that had 10 absences still was able to finish the assignments with a passing grade and demonstrated those competency skills for English 101R, but they did have several absences. So I don't know what to quite make of that, but there it is. And then you can see kind of the other grade distributions, and it just makes kind of sense here that the number of absences is kind of reflected in the overall grade for the class. So that is that screen, and I'm pretty sure I got that accurate. So let's go ahead and go back to the modules. All right, so let's go. I'm going to start in with let's see, the attendance tool. And so, Jacqueline, you had mentioned that you're using this, and I know a lot of instructors already are, so this might be a little bit redundant. But if I go into the course tools and click on attendance, you can kind of see here there's students, and you can see an overall a number associated with students in their attendance record. So I was able to adjust this so if they submitted a participation assignment late, they would get a late attendance grade. And so like I said, that's a really nice way to monitor attendance, and they could see that. And then in the module itself, I'm going to go to week 5, and let's check out this week. So we had our learning objectives, our connection with our CC, and instructor mentor hours. That was routine for each weekly module. And then we went into the weekly assignments. So this assignment was just the reading assignment for the week. This was a 4-credit low stakes writing assignment. And so what I had was this vocabulary building assignment that was ongoing for reading. And students would just go in and they would submit their vocabulary study. And I would comment on those, and they would, other students would comment on vocabulary words, and then they would receive credit for participation in that weekly blog assignment. So they would just create a blog entry, enter their name, and enter their vocabulary from that weekly reading assignment with their dictionary definition. And so that was one way to ensure that they were engaging with reading assignments and vocabulary study. So that the one problem I felt that I had with this assignment, the blogs, was that in Blackboard, when I created the assignments, I would have to go back and check for the students' participation, and then go back into the attendance tool and award credit. So that would be something I would do weekly. What would be helpful with Blackboard is if I could label in the attendance tool, label the assignment, if that makes sense. So I could easily go back and adjust and monitor those. So that was one thing I found a little bit frustrating with the process. With the attendance tool, it's just a date. So if I could rename the date and put vocabulary blog, it would be easier for me to keep record of that, going back and forth with the weekly module postings and the actual documentation of attendance. So that was one way of, in this weekly module, for monitoring student engagement with the course. This assignment was for credit, so it was a graphic organizer, and then we had another assignment for credit. So in that particular week, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this was for participation grade as well. So this was a graphic organizer assignment. This was just, they actually had to go in and upload their work, and a video instructions were given for that. I'm hesitant to go into Blackboard and actually pull it up, but there was a graphic organizer template that was provided, and they completed the template. So it was kind of really a structured pre-writing assignment that kind of scaffolded the readings and prompted them how to complete the graphic organizer. Here, I'll just pull the blank document up so you can see it. So this was the tool, and it was a fillable form that they just filled out with the two readings that we had for that week, or had been working on, and they were working to pre-write for a compare contrast paper. So this was the 4 participation assignment, just going through and completing that and uploading it as a pre-writing assignment. And so that was for participation engagement with weekly reading assignments for this particular week. Does anyone have any questions with what I've covered? And
we do have a question in the chat from Dr. Cole.
Okay, let me see.
She asked why blogs over discussion boards.
Okay, I got you here. There's a chat. Well, I have felt, Jacqueline, with the discussion boards with my particular population of students, it is kind of awkward and cumbersome for them to really see how that is attempting to simulate a classroom discussion. So the blogs for me, the blog tool in Blackboard seems to be a little bit better and a little more seamless in creating a discussion. And I know other instructors use other technology, like I'm trying to think of some other online tools that they use, but they're outside of Blackboard. So again, that requires a little bit of instruction and getting the students up to speed with maybe technology that they're unfamiliar with. So I like to keep everything housed within Blackboard, so they're not having to kind of navigate in and out of different software systems. And so the Blackboard tool, or the blog tool rather, I think for me helps with discussions versus the discussion tool. So but that is 1 week of graded assignments and 2 participation assignments. So when they completed this graphic organizer, I gave them a complete in gradebook, and then I went back to the attendance tool and gave them credit for that day. It was due like that Wednesday or Friday. So I would go in on Monday, and then I would give them credit for participation for that Friday's classwork. So that was the routine. Anything that a participation grade for Wednesday, I would go back into Blackboard on Thursday or Friday and award them credit for participation on that particular date. So there were 2 for this week. They received credit for participation for logging in early in the week, like Monday or Tuesday, and then they were awarded participation engagement or attendance for the vocabulary study and the graphic organizer. So let's look at another weekly module and another example of how I monitored their engagement. So I'm going to go ahead and go into, let's see, week 9. And we were a little bit further along in the semester. And again, it followed the same routine with outcomes, CEC signups, instructor mentor hours, some instructional videos. This was a 4-grade assignment. It was a draft for a rhetorical analysis outline. And in this case, what I wanted them to submit was proof of that they had signed up with our CEC for an appointment for consultation. So I was looking for them to upload a picture before Monday, before 11:30 p.m. on Monday, just to show that they had made an appointment with a CEC. And then I went back in on Tuesday and gave them credit for participation for making that appointment for the week. Then the next assignment for this week was a self-assessment. So we had a procrastination survey, and some students would print this and they would handwrite their responses. Some had the capability to digitally annotate the assignment. And this was just a chance for them to monitor. At this stage, we were past the midterm point where, procrastination was kind of evident with some of the students in submitting late work. And that was something that they could discuss in their e-portfolio at the end of the semester, how procrastination may have been influencing their writing. And so we went through this survey, and they uploaded that either as a picture or as the PDF file that they annotated. And then I went in for this day. It was due on a Wednesday. So I went back into Blackboard Thursday and Friday, checked for the completion, gave them a complete or incomplete in gradebook, and then went back into the Blackboard tool and gave them credit for attendance for that particular date, whatever this date Wednesday was. So in this case, for this weekly module, I had these 2 participation engagement assignments, really prompted them to meet with their consultant, and then self-assessment, and then the 4 graded, the lower stakes and higher stakes grading assignments for the week. And then in this case, just as an overview too, they had optional quizzes usually every week. I think Jacqueline, you'd mentioned that. Those seemed to be helpful. Those were all extra credit. So that was week 10. And so that kind of, I think, has an overview of 2 weeks within a full semester term of example assignments using a blog and screenshots or pictures to show proof of their activities with certain assignments, and then uploading other really short, brief work just to continue to demonstrate that they're actively engaged in the week. And so I don't know if anybody would like for me to visit another weekly module, or if that seems to be clear on my method for monitoring participation, engagement, and awarding attendance credit.
I would be interested in seeing another one.
Okay.
I'm impressed with your organization, and you've got great attention to detail. I like how, one of the reasons these are beneficial is you can pick up new methods of teaching, and you've done so much that I'm getting lots of ideas from you.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Let me see. I'm trying to remember some of I'll go back into the weekly modules. I'm just going to scroll down. Let's go into the week 8. This is when we were looking at rhetorical analysis. And again, as a routine, the objectives, the link for signups, instructor mentor hours, some content information that was shared and reviewed. Now, I did have Zoom sessions, if you might see over here, recorded Zooms, where I would record and go through this information and post the videos. So that was also part of the asynchronous class. But those were this was the content, another video and content information. Another website, let's see. So here was the outline. This was for grading. This was an outline for rhetorical analysis. Oh, this one was for attendance and participation. So this provided, I attached and went through the documents that they would work through, previewing a reading selection, and then downloading an outline template. And they were practicing this reverse outlining technique with a pre-written rhetorical analysis paper. So they would preview the example rhetorical analysis paper right here. And then we had a reverse outline. I don't know if this is making sense. It's probably difficult to maybe understand all of this without having the entire Zoom instructional video here, but let me pull up the template. Maybe that will help. Let's see, where is that? So this was a fillable form. I had some instructions for them, and they were looking at a student rhetorical analysis paper in reverse outlining. So going paragraph by paragraph, and this was fillable, that they could fill in the information from the outline. So they're really dissecting another student's paper. It would take, a considerable amount of time really to do that well. And they did a pretty good job with it. It required a little more explanation for many. And so I did have to conference with some students individually on this. It's probably something I would continue to look at to revise, but they did receive credit for attendance for completing and uploading that completed outline for that week. This was a video, and then another video And then we had another video and an optional quiz. So for this particular week, I think I probably awarded them credit for logging into Blackboard early in the week. And because this was such a time-consuming participation and engagement assignment, this outline, I just had the one for that week. And I think I probably gave them the rest of the week to probably complete that. It was due Wednesday, and I probably checked and gave them attendance if they had submitted it by the end of the week.
Kim?
So it would vary from week to week, depending on the difficulty level of the participation engagement assignments, how many I would create. So something like that, I just didn't want to overload them with too much because they still had several instructional videos to watch as well.
I've got a question about, to receive those attendance points. I'm sure it's specified in the syllabus, the breakdown, but how many points do they get for doing something like that?
Okay, so when you use the participation tool in Blackboard, you can assign a number of points, and in this case, it was 100 overall, so it was 10% of the overall grade for the class. And what requires some explanation, because in Blackboard, the attendance column, at the beginning of the semester, when I'm posting attendance for a strictly online class, it is going to show like 20%. It has, I don't know if I can't expect how I can, it builds the participation percentage will build over the duration of the semester. So early on, they'll say, what's my attendance and participation grade? It's only 18, 20%. Well, it's because we just don't have enough participation attendance grades or scores in there for it to really be an accurate representation of your participation in the class, if that makes sense. So by the end of the semester, say we would have 25 of those participation engagement assignments. Blackboard determines the points that are awarded to meet the 100 points overall. So I don't even have to do that. And then the other thing that I did was you can be kind of select if assignment is late, whether you're going to give any type of what percentage they'll receive for submitting a late, or if they're completely absent. So that's how the tool works itself. And then in with the syllabus, what the grade distribution for the class overall, and it was detailed in the syllabus with participation, engagement, and assignments. The grading and evaluation table here was 60% of the class was really for the major essays and e-portfolio. And then 40% of the class was the process and their note-taking and their attendance. So the engagement activities overall were a very small percentage of the class, but it does make a difference. And they were really the ones that were, attentive and really participating. They did put effort into their work. I mean, as always, sometimes, they could do a little bit more, but some occasionally would neglect to do those. But overall, they saw it, I think, because it was built in with the weekly modules. They did see that, and they could see in Blackboard how that was being calculated and monitored, that it was, it held them accountable, I think, and they felt accountable for completing the work. So I hope that helps kind of show how that distribution worked within the class. So it wasn't overly.
This was an asynchronous class, is that correct?
Yes, completely asynchronous.
Yeah, so it really helped with the accountability for that. Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me see if I can go down to a final. This is getting into the final stages of the semester. And let's see if I have a, at that point, students were really here. So here's another, we had a works cited blog post. So we used another blog tool. So I provided a checklist here, an example works cited page, and some instructions how to engage in that discussion. And they were awarded credit for participation there. So this was an effort to build their works cited page skills with a class discussion and some resource materials, reinforcing really what we'd gone over previously in the semester, but to get them involved in that with their final major writing assignment, which was a synthesis paper. Trying to see, and that was the only participation and engagement assignment for that week, the blog post. Everything else was for credit. So I guess in summary, you know, when we moved from completely face-to-face with our first year writing program and everyone was asked to teach online, fully online, my first thought was, how am I going to get students to, you know, make sure that they're logging in and out of Blackboard regularly and participating with the information and assignments. So I really wanted to kind of mimic what we'd already done in class. So these assignments that I created were things that I would distribute in class and that we would do and discuss in class. And I just put them online, and instead of, you know, in class, they wouldn't get, they were, but with face-to-face now, when they come to class, I credit them for attendance for coming to class, and they're doing the work, we're doing the work together. So in this way, they were coming to class asynchronously and doing the work somewhat, you know, we weren't meeting for class, and they had some control over when they could complete the assignment. So I think in a way they kind of like that, and they like kind of the anonymity in a way. So I am interested to do a trend analysis of pre-COVID face-to-face, COVID asynchronous, and now what I consider to be is a face-to-face class, but there's so much movement in and out because of COVID issues and other things that I really have to provide the opportunity to complete the work that we're doing in class online as well. So I think it would be interesting to see over a 3-year time span what that looks like for skill development and looking at the grades on the major writing assignments in the e-portfolio, and compare how well they're demonstrating their competency of those 101 writing skills in that asynchronous class compared to a pre-COVID traditional face-to-face class, and also the current kind of iteration of face-to-face first year writing that I'm working with now.
I have a quick comment, and I'm wondering if you could speak to this. You know, it's very interesting to me how you talk about, even though this is asynchronous, you're having students come to class. And the thing that really strikes me, and you know, I do course design and did it for a living for a bunch of years before I came into this new role, but your content is extremely conversational. Like I was just trying to read some of these, not only how you've kind of explained the sort of the initial introduction to some of the content, but each assignment, like you use terminology like first do this, then do this, next do that, and finally, here's the terminal result. Can you speak to how you arrived at that? Because I think that's very interesting. And for the student who'll take a little time to recognize that, that can be very powerful in their own learning. And maybe that's me, but that's what really struck me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Really, because when I'm working with the students face-to-face, I really have to be very explicit we're going to do this first. This was face-to-face classes first. I mean, that's just the way I would explain it in the classroom. So I just simply mimicked what I did in class with the instructions, with the assignments in Blackboard. I just found that they need really just do first, next, then, and finally. And that seems to work well with my students, to be really explicit.
So what was your process for arriving at that? Have you just taught these courses so much in the live model that you were able to just picture yourself in the classroom as you were sitting down to develop these courses? Did you have an explicit process, or is it just kind of a second nature thing?
No, that was just it. I was just trying to picture myself in the classroom, what I did, and then try to envision what that would look like in an asynchronous course. How could I most closely replicate what we actually do face-to-face and implement that in an asynchronous course? So I was intentionally trying to say, I know, because I've been doing this for so long, face-to-face, and how much they just need real explicit instruction. How am I going to do that in this online world, which I felt, well, how is this ever going to work? And I was like, so that was just, what is the best way that I can do that and simplify the work so it doesn't seem, overly complicated or confusing, or that was the idea. I think after the students became acclimated to the design of the class and the routine of the weekly module, they could see, how they just needed to work through each item. There were 7 to 10 items each week, some of those routine items there to review, and then the assignments themselves. So they could, I think, see the method behind the madness with the detailed description.
Kim, I've got a question. Could you scroll up to the top of your Blackboard site?
Mhm.
So I like your organization and your attention to detail. But one thing I noticed that I want to learn how to do is on the left side, all your buttons, you've got them grouped according to headings. You've got introduction with a few buttons there, then you got classroom with some buttons. I've never seen that before, and I'd like to do that in my own classes where I can group my buttons according to common themes. How do you do that?
Well, I must credit, there was another instructor, Chris, that I viewed, I guess it was one of these OTL sessions where she demonstrated how to do this. So I did learn from another OTL session. But so if you go here to the plus button up at the top, I'm sorry, I don't have all the great terminology, and you can create subheaders, and then, introductions. I'm just going to submit. And then you can just move these around. So, and then you can create these dividers to section things off. Like I wanted, here's classroom. This was just getting started with remote learning, collaboration, resources, grades. So these sections can be created with dividers, and these you can just, if you scroll down, where is it? You can just move these around. So it is really fairly simple with creating subheaders and dividers.
Yeah, thank you. That's I never knew about that until today.
Well, like I say, I have to credit another instructor for pointing that out to me, because when I did create these online classes, that made sense. since, and I implemented her instruction, and I forget who it was. I didn't know at the time either. So it's just the little things, you know, it makes a big difference.
I mean, Kim, just a comment, and really thank you truly for this presentation, because it's really helpful. This is probably one of the best built Blackboard sites I've ever seen. To let you know, I mean, you can tell that you spent a huge amount of time putting this together to really make it easy for students to find information, being very explicit, as you said, like you would be in a normal teaching face-to-face situation. So out of curiosity, I was just kind of wondering, how long did it take you to construct this Blackboard site? Because I mean, I know this isn't a weekend job, is this a, winter break kind of project? How long did it really take you to make something this great?
Well, I appreciate your compliment, really. It's hard for me to gauge the amount of time it took to create, because even before we moved to the asynchronous online classes, I had already I had gone through the IDC training for PD2, and I always felt that there was a need for me to create a Blackboard course that kind of was like an online course, because I have so many students that are athletes, they work, they have family issues, they miss class, and so I wanted a Blackboard course that they could go in and still be successful in the class if there were things that were pulling them away from attending class. So I'd already had over, I don't know, when I completed the PD2, it was, I think, 2019, 2018, I would have to go back. I had already started building kind of these weekly modules, but they were really kind of rudimentary, not, it just takes a long time. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say. I mean, it's been many semesters that I continued to just kind of build on what I had learned in the PD2 training. And then when COVID hit, I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to have to really get this up to snuff for an asynchronous class. And I built some of it on the fly that fall semester, but over the summer, I'd also gone in and done some work there too, to kind of reconstruct the modules. But it was kind of building the plane in flight, I guess you'd say, in some ways, that first semester. But I had a really, I think, solid skeleton to work from. But I worked to kind of just clean things up and add those pictures, really is what I was working to do, the visual images, and somebody commented on that. And I felt like getting some of those visual images in there would stimulate some interest. And so I worked, that was a big part of what I was working on as the semester was progressing with each module. As I would open one, before I would open it, I would go back, hey, what kind of visual can I put in here? What can I do to kind of straighten this up, just to make it a little more appealing visually, or make it clear, make instructions clear. And so to answer your question, I really don't know how much time, but because it's been ongoing, and it still is ongoing, but I feel like I'm at the stage now where I'm almost feeling like I'm not really having to do a lot of work at all, because we're not online this semester, we're face-to-face, but I mean, there's always something I'm working to develop, but it's almost, it's like, wow, okay. But it was a lot of work over a period of time.
Kim, I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with the fact that you can add words like complete and incomplete in gradebook. How, because that would be helpful for me, because sometimes I just want to say, you know, developing or, you know, keep going or something like that. How do you do that? I didn't even know that was an option.
Okay, let me see if I can, so like, I'm just in this module, week 16, I'm going to, let's see.
You do that when you create the I mean, it's like when I go in and create assignments, I don't really, when I go in, it's like there seems to be points and I don't see where.
So I'm just going to go into this week 2 and I'm just going to create an assignment.
Thank
And I'm just going to name it test, and then the instructions and whatever, and then the due date. And I'm going to put a 0 there, and then submit. And then let's see, if you go into then your full grade center, and well, I don't really want to know if I want to do that, but if you go into grade center, there's a way that when you click on the assignment itself, I don't know how to show this without pull it up. I don't want to violate a FERPA with showing student grade center report, but
Don't worry about it. I'll blur any of that out. So
okay.
show what you want to show. I'll blur it out.
Okay, so if you go into full grade center and then you go, I'm just gonna see if I can find where the test is. Here it is. And I'm gonna go to test and I'm going to edit column information. And instead of score, I'm gonna put text. I don't use complete or incomplete. I just use text. Okay. And then submit. And then when I want to,
you can just type in whatever word you need to. I've never seen that word text in there. Okay. Right.
You just go through and submit that.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of my problems has been is that we're using Blackboard, and when I try to watch Blackboard videos to like help me, they just seem confusing. And then it's like, I don't know. Then sometimes it's not, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I have not found the Blackboard videos to be helpful for me to really be able to use all of the features. And I keep finding people like you who know something, like I had learned the little edit column thing from someone, you know, that Jim was asking about and helpful. Now, what I like about you is what I've been doing is I've just been listing week 1, week 2, week 3. So my column is really long there, but I do so students know that they only have to go to that week to know what they have to do. But I like that you have modules. And so instead of having that long list of dates, then they just click into that one thing. And I've never thought of doing it that way, but it's a lot tidier, you know.
Yeah.
And having all the
right. I mean, that design with the weekly module is just a replication of the IDC PD2 training. So I didn't create that. I didn't create that design.
Right.
But it was just so helpful with the training. I thought to have everything kind of for each week in one folder and just have that. So you can just go and they can move from week to week. I open the weeks as we progress through the semester, but they can go back to previous weeks.
Yeah, I just did that because I had taken a course somewhere and they had listed, you know, the weeks. Now I've taken the 1, I haven't taken the 2. Yeah. But like I said, I hadn't thought about organizing that as modules. Now I end up putting the dates, like whatever that Sunday is, because my kids get confused about what week we're in. So I actually add the date, you know, week 2, whatever date it is. But I like how you don't have that all, because when I open my Blackboard site, even though they can go in, like I said, it's all messy because I have all the dates, I have all the modules showing, and you've got that one thing that they go to. I really like that, how nice that looks. So, well, thank you for showing me that in Gradebook. That will be extremely helpful for me just to make a comment. Thank you so much, Kim.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad. I appreciate the opportunity to share what I've done here. And if anyone has any questions, it looks like it's about noon, so I don't know if everyone's ready to sign off for the day, but please email me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to email you back or send a short instructional video if something pops into your mind, like how did you do that again? And I can just do a screencast video and send it to you.
Well, I really appreciate your time today. And you've not only shown your dedication and work ethic, but also multiple approaches for engaging students, having something for them to do every week that is low stakes, multiple chances to assess their own progress and where they are. And also this conversational nature of your assignments and layout, I think is, I'm sure that's core and key to what's going on relative to the learning. So thank you so much for those things.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll take the compliments anywhere I can take them.
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
I'll stop the recording, but people can